Welcome back. Sorry about that, you guys. We're solving the problems, right? But you were answering the question about what do we do when our kids perseverate on a thought, and especially when it's a negative thought. So
I start from the beginning, work with your behavior analyst, and find out what the function of the behavior is. Because one thing about negative thoughts is what I've seen in the past is the first one is attention. They get lots of attention for saying negative things, and as long as they can rely on the interaction, that interaction can actually become a routine.
Okay.
I say something negative, you say this to me.
Right.
And it's very reliable, and then it can start as an attention and then turn into a routine.
Okay.
Just like a lot of things. Then let's say we're past that, and it's just like the moment I get into a negative thought, it's the inflexibility. I'm only perfect, or I'm either a success or failure. Always. And that's where then I'm always trying to teach people the gray areas.
Yeah.
Because life is a continuum, it's not one side or the other. Almost everything we do has that continuum, that gray area. So then do they need vocabulary? Do they need language? I don't know what level of comprehension, language ability this person has. But I always have to say we have to teach all the gray language, because a lot of times they don't know the difference between okay and perfect.
Well, and let's be clear that, there's no teenager that has all those things together either. Like, on the spectrum, not on the spectrum. I always say it's the reason why we teach Romeo and Juliet in the 9th grade. Because Romeo and Juliet were guilty of very black and white thinking. I want to be with you, I can't be with you, and so I end my life.
Yes.
and that's how it ends. And that is teenager thinking. They don't have experience to understand, I'm feeling that way right now, but I might feel differently next Wednesday when you do something that really ticks me off.
But it goes all the way to the other end. What they do have, though, is they can tell you what their favorite food is, and they can tell you what food they tolerate.
Yeah.
And what food they might eat, but they don't really like it, and the foods that they will not touch at all. And I always use food because everybody has an opinion about food.
There we go.
And I teach them, and the thing is, a lot of these kids receptively hear okay, good, great, but it's all one meaning. And that's what ends up getting them in trouble, is they start equating everything as over here or over here. It's always like I'm perfect or I'm a failure.
But you must teach that to them.
You
can't assume that they're going to just pick it up. And because even a typical teenager in large part won't, but so especially with our kids on the spectrum, you've got to teach this.
And I would say this conversation about food, because there's just lots of variety, it can be 6 months.
Yeah.
But once they really start to understand that they love pizza and chicken is okay,
yeah,
you're getting somewhere, because okay has a different meaning now.
Yes.
And then you slowly start generalizing to other things that are more concrete, and you start having that middle ground, the neutral ground. Yeah. So just there's all these things. But the thing is, there's another issue, which is an executive function issue, which is divided attention. Once they get on something, they're stuck and they can't switch out.
Yeah.
They can't turn it off and do the switch. So there is like in skills, which is our curriculum, there is a lesson just to teach disengagement.
Yeah.
How do you just stop doing something? We're not even talking about getting you to go to move something that's productive. We're just saying, if you're stuck and you're perseverating, how do you just stop yourself and be able to move over?
Yeah.
Just get out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of our kids have that issue. They're on the spectrum. They do have that part where they start on something and they just get stuck and they just have a difficulty moving out. So it's just teaching them to disengage. And then once they can disengage, then you can talk about switching your attention back and forth. Because a lot of times for us, we're perseverating on something in the back of our head, but we can turn it off and do our work, and then the minute we have free time again, we go back to that perseveration.
Right.
And that's the ability to divide your attention up, and that takes a lot of practice. When you're 10, 12, 13, it's really, really hard to do because your brain's not fully developed at that point. But hopefully by your mid-20s or 30s, you're able to shut things off and be able to, keep doing whatever you need to be doing, and then in your free time, you might go back to it.
Yeah.
And, but you're functional.
And here's the thing, that these things are teachable, but you have to be able to teach all these little bits that you and I wouldn't necessarily think of. That's where skills comes in. And so you can go to skillsforautism.com, do a free trial. It doesn't cost you anything for 14 days. They don't charge you till the 15th day. Try it. to see, but there are all those little lessons that are in there. And once your child or teen or adult that's on the spectrum knows those things, they are actually better at coping with things than we are. Because we actually need to learn these lessons sometimes too. I can't tell you how many times that something's been happening and my son will go, hey, wait a second, is this a 2 or is this an 8? Like on the scale of 1 to 10, how upset do we really need to be about this? And, I know that you're focused on this right now, but if you take a breath, go for a walk, you'll be able to focus on, like he teaches me.
And because they learn it so concretely, I love hearing them talk about it.
I know.
Because it's so clear and organized, and you're like, okay, yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Exactly. Like whenever I'm chasing my tail, it's my kid gives me some of the best advice that I get. Yeah. But part of that is because he learned these things. He didn't come out of the womb with them.
Yes.
He learned them through, and they were using skills on him. So there we go.
And there's a lot of other things. Like we have a kid right now who's 20, and he's very, same thing, perseverates and negative. So we taught him a rule, and we put it in writing that every time you think of this negative thing, you have to list 3 positive things that happened. And they're like highly engaging topics that he loves.
Okay.
So we're doing this pairing thing where it's like whenever I hit the negative, I have to, we're forcing him to think about the positive by listing and putting it visually so that he doesn't have to reach and find it. Just making it visually appear and very enticing, and he loves it already, and we don't have to teach him to love it.
Yeah.
That we're starting to make that pair, so every time you think of this negative, we're going to the positive.
There we go.
And hopefully over time it's going to work. But right now it's really funny to watch because you see the struggle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The struggle of I'm so terrible at this, or this bad thing happened, but oh look, this isn't. It's like the back and forth. But the thing is, we're just at the beginning of teaching, and a lot of times the pairing does work. Because the thing is, you get a lot more reinforcement too if we plan it in and reinforce that positive. Plus, it's internally motivating for him to really love these subjects. And it's not one-to-one, it's one to here are 3 things that you really love. Yeah. And, usually you can see some of that. And it's a coping mechanism. Yeah. We all start to spin down negative, but we can kind of move ourselves and shift and say, okay, I think I need to be more positive now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things you can do.
All right, I'm going to try to get to this last question in the 8 minutes that we have left. They write in and say, this is from India again. My daughter is 10 years old with ASD. My question is, what lessons to work on to reduce anxiety regarding changes? My daughter recently has a lot of anxiety regarding every small change these days, from which restaurant to go to, the seat in the restaurant, what she wants to wear, etc. It's not that she doesn't accept it, but keeps saying this is new, and she remembers and notices every small change. Do we need to work on flexibility lessons and skills? She goes on to say, continuation from question from India, she also gets to take time to adjust when relatives come to stay with us. When we inform her that your grandfather is coming to visit, she says, bye-bye, grandfather. Thank you for answering my question. Always, you are my lifeline. We're sending you hugs. Okay, so, queen of skills. Because I don't know if you know this, but Evelyn Kung is the queen of skills, and you're the person who adds, subtracts, makes it run, and knows everything that's in there. She's the skills wizard. Wizardress. What's a female wizard?
I don't know.
I should ask my husband. He would know.
He would know.
But anyway, so which lessons? Because they use skills.
Well, there's a few things involved here. Flexibility helps, but a lot of times when kids start getting anxious, it's the same anxiety that we get as neurotypical. When you start to get anxious, you start to feel like you're out of control. Right? Anxiety builds.
I'm guilty as charged,
And the thing is for us, though, is we have the power to try to gain some control.
Yeah.
Because we ask questions, we learn new information. There's a lot of things that we do so that we start feeling like we have some aspect of control.
Yeah.
So a lot of times this tends to be the kids who are very vocal, who are very aware of their situation. A lot of times I say, you know what, you need to give them some control. They're 10.
Okay.
You need to start giving her some control of things. And, it could be from what she's wearing to what she's eating at certain meals, and then maybe not all meals because you need a balanced diet.
Right.
But a lot of times giving her some choices where she can choose. For so many of the kids, they just want some of that control in their life. When their whole life is controlled by other people, that's when the anxiety comes, because then they start focusing on all the little things. They're trying to figure out what's coming next. And if they don't know how to ask questions yet, that's how a typical kid that has a lot of anxiety, they start bombarding their parents with questions. Well, when are we going? How long is he staying? Are we going to be there for long? Like, is this going to happen? Where is he going to sleep? Are we going to this restaurant? How long are we going to be there? They start, and they're trying to gain control with all their questions. So I was going to say that if she has the ability, and if you have the ability, you need to work on actually the WH questions, so that she can start asking and gaining some information, so she can gain some control. Like the grandfather coming to visit, if it's good that you've told her and you've primed her, but maybe she has all these other questions like, how long is he staying? Are we going to do something different from our normal routine because he's here?
Right.
You know, is food going to change because maybe mom starts making food that he likes and not necessarily like the normal food they normally eat?
Right.
There's a lot of things that change in a household, and she's trying to grasp it, trying to figure out like, I want to know what's going on. So like just teaching her to ask questions about what's going to happen makes anxiety go down quite a bit. But a lot of times just giving them more choices and more control. And as the kids get older, I always say our kids have autism, yes, but they go through, like teenagers with autism are the same as teenagers. And when they're toddlers, they're the same. They still are like, that general development is still going on. So you see a lot of the kids like going through puberty and everything else, they don't know why they're feeling a certain way, and they can't tell you how they're feeling.
Right.
And just they're hormonal or whatever it may be, it's just like things start to change and they need to have more control on their life. So yes, flexibility will help because yes, if you feel like the function is being inflexible and they're trying to stay within their rigid routine of not wanting to go to a certain restaurant or wanting to choose what seat to sit in, but then there is the other aspect of maybe they just need more control of their life because they're being told everything on what to do.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes for us because we think, well, what they want control, we look at it just surface and we go, well, what they wanted control of or was where they're sitting in the restaurant. And so I could give them more control over what they wear, but they want control over the restaurant. But I have seen in myself exactly what you're talking about. I suffer from anxiety and had to go through cognitive behavioral therapy because it was to the point where I couldn't drive my car. So we're not talking the mild kind, right? And I did not understand this concept in the beginning. They were like, you feel like your life is out of control, so you're trying to take control over really ridiculous stuff.
Yes.
Like really ridiculous stuff, you guys. Like, where the sponge sits on the kitchen sink, because it can't sit there or I, completely lose my mind. And they were like, but it's not really about the sponge.
Yeah,
and I really rejected that. I was like, but it is about the sponge. But I found out through lots of therapy that it was about my child having an autism spectrum diagnosis and feeling like I can't protect him from the world. Yeah. That's what it was really about. And once I solved that and saw the things that I could take control over with my son, because you can't take control over everything.
Yes.
But if you look at it, and it really is that serenity prayer that they do about grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Once I understood that as an adult, then I could take control over the things that I did have control over, and it made it so that, I drive my car all the time now.
Yes.
I won't say that I'm without anxiety, that would be a lie, but I don't have a disorder at this point in time. Let's knock on some wood, because anything could happen at any minute, right? But, I just want you to realize that giving control over something that is not the thing you think is the control is very helpful.
Yeah, it really is helpful. When we start in therapy, sometimes it starts to happen. And so we start saying, okay, in this area you can choose. Yeah. And you see the kids, they just calm.
Yeah.
They just realize, oh, I can always choose what clothes I'm wearing.
Yes.
Or I can always choose. Like sometimes it seems ridiculous. We had a kid who wanted an allowance, and his control thing was, okay, I'm going to put a cup on the corner of my desk, and every day at Friday at 7 p.m. money needs to appear. And I'm like, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay. Like,
Right.
That's how you want it, and it's not a big deal to anybody else, and it just makes him feel better.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that are negotiable and things that are not negotiable.
If you think about it, it's kind of like in work. Now you get direct deposit. He wanted the direct deposit. I just wanted to appear there. It makes sense to me. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but it's been a privilege to be here with all of you and a privilege to be here with you. We thank Evelyn Kung, and I'm supposed to read to you what's happening. Okay, tomorrow we have autism expert Romelia Manukal.
Leia. That's what her name's Romelia.
Romelia. Okay, thank you. Thank goodness that you knew. And then on Friday for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we have Lemur Mom, Megan Dolan, back with us at her show, Lemur Mom. So, and my understanding is that we are going to announce on that show that we're going to be giving away a couple of tickets to her show here in Los Angeles, Lemur Mom. So definitely check that out on Friday. Until then, we will be back tomorrow, but until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.